All right, welcome back to this fifth episode of the Wildfire series, Quotes That Stuck With Me. Today's quote is from James Tallarico. James said, "Don't tell me what you believe. Show me how you treat other people, and I'll tell you what you believe." I would shift James's quote just a tad, but I think we're on to the same page here. I'd say, don't tell me what you believe. Show me how you live your life, and I'll tell you what you believe. Okay, so I want to start this episode by saying that I'm not trying to be divisive with this content. I'm simply trying to point out a deep flaw in the human psyche that leads to misery for many people. And my intent is not to cast judgment on anyone or any particular religion. Again, my intent is to help people resolve this deep internal issue so they can move forward into greater freedom, purpose, passion, and fulfillment. With all of that said, these quotes are tied to an internal sensitive spot for me because of events that transpired in the past year and a half for me and my family. And so I'll tell you a little bit about that. In November of 2024, I was kicked out of church for believing something unorthodox, right? Believing something outside the framework of what that church believed. And I was kicked out despite the fact that I loved and supported so many people within that church. I spent time with them. I listened to them. I helped them feel valued and dignified. I shared meals and laughs with them. I played with their children. I loved them deeply, right? But because of differing beliefs, I was told I was no longer welcome in the church and in that congregation, right? And here's an interesting point to be made. When you compare lifestyles, right? And again, I'm not trying to get into a comparison game in any sort of combative way, right? But again, just trying to compare facts here. When you compare lifestyles, I would say that my lifestyle portrayed a lifestyle of faith way more than the lifestyles of many of the people within the church, right? Here's what was going on, right? They said they believed in a big God who could move mountains for them, but they lived their comfortable lives, rarely risking their beliefs, right? Rarely putting their beliefs on the line, right? They worked jobs they didn't enjoy for 40 or 50 years, despite the fact that they claimed to believe in a God who placed a specific call upon the life of each individual human and who would support them in that call no matter what. They allowed their work to take precedence over their connection with their spouse and their children, even though they claimed to believe in a God who would, one, have them prioritize their connection with loved ones above work, and two, who would provide them with everything they needed if they would simply seek first His kingdom in all that they do. They gave financially to causes mostly out of guilt, pity, and reluctance, even though they claimed to believe in a God who would return to them anything they gave 100-fold. They judged and looked down their noses at Democrats, immigrants, and people of other religions, even though they claimed to believe in a God who would have them love all people. They casually dismissed all of these faithless actions and many others and convinced themselves that they were doing what their God would have them do because, number one, even though they didn't do the actions they believed, and two, because they attended church, prayed, read their Bible, and went to their small group, right? Now let's return to the quote. Don't tell me what you believe. Show me how you treat other people, and I'll tell you what you believe. And again, my twist is, don't tell me what you believe. Show me how you live your life, and I'll tell you what you believe. I've always said this. Take away all the words of my life, right? Anything I've ever said, and simply evaluate my life without words. This is how you truly measure a human being, right? Look at their life without all of their words. Look at their life without all of their well-meaning intentions. Look at how they're actually living. That's what they believe in. That's what they value. Are they primarily risking their social and material comfort in an effort to love the world, or are they pursuing stability and comfort? Again, don't listen to their words. Many people have themselves convinced that they're living a life that they're not living, right? Simply because they place too much weight on their intentions and not enough on their actual actions. Having great intentions doesn't make you a good person. Acting upon those intentions consistently and when it's difficult makes you a good person. Circling back to the situation of me being kicked out of church, right? I wasn't perfect, but in many ways for the past 14 years, my life has been an incredible example of faith and love. But because I didn't say all the right things, I was cast out, right? Because I placed greater value on doing what Jesus would have me do than the average Christian, and less value on saying I believe or saying I'm doing what Jesus would have me do than the average Christian, I was asked to step away. How backwards is this, right? And this isn't only a small, contained happening within the Christian world. This problem I'm speaking of is widespread. There are far more Christians who are living the faithless life I explained previously than there are Christians living a life similar to mine, right? It's the case of the rich young ruler from the Bible, right? Many within the church are only willing to go so far with Jesus. He asked them to do more, but they can't do it. They're too afraid of what it might cost them. And I get that because I've had to leap off that edge many times in my life, right? I've had to risk it all with the hope that God would catch me. But most of humanity has never done this. They're too afraid that they will lose a relationship. They're too afraid that they'll lose their income. They're too afraid that they'll lose their retirement. And if you look closely at the activities of their life and ignore their words or their stated intentions and beliefs, you see that they worship relationships and money over God. Those things take priority over living the life He would have them live. And we can't hide our actions, right? We can try to cover them up with words and beliefs, but our actions are a dead giveaway of what we truly believe. If you believed God would carry you through relationally and financially, you'd take far more risks in the world. And in doing so, you'd find yourself and those around you radically transformed for good. Let's take a look at my life, right? My life has been full of radical career shifts, putting it all on the line financially multiple times because I wanted to spend the best part of my day every day. Number one, making a big impact serving humanity. Number two, spending adequate time with the ones I loved. Number three, taking care of myself and enjoying my work. And number four, still having all of mine and my family's material needs met. Right? I dared to dream about these things. I dared to believe God would want me to have these things, and I took a leap of faith. And number two in my life, I've had difficult conversations with the people closest to me to try and improve my relationships with them, despite the fear that they might walk away. Beyond that, I've shown people my real, true, deepest, rawest self because I want to give them the truest version of me and all of me. Right? I don't want to sell them short relationally. And again, I do this despite the fact that they might walk away. I dared to believe that God would have me in deep, true, meaningful, loving relationships instead of the shallow, false relationships that many humans find themselves in. And I took a leap of faith. And maybe I've had a clearer view of all of this because of my profession, right? I've spent the last decade fundraising in the Christian world, and so I get to see people's attachment to money and see how most people worship money more than God, right? Most of humanity says that they believe in the God of the Bible, but when you ask them to put that belief on the line, to truly test it, they back down. They don't really take God seriously to the point of doing the radical things He would have them do. And here's the deal, really, and it's a sad reality, right? Here it is. Our actions, if faithless, will eventually produce the opposite of the fruit of the Spirit in our lives, right? Instead of peace, joy, and love, they will eventually produce misery within us. This is the way of the gigantic God I serve, right? No one is exempt. As Jonah spent time in the belly of the whale until he committed to doing what God would have him do, those who don't truly act in accord with God's law will increase in misery until they decide to do it. The gap between what you think or say your life is and what your life actually is could be called the pit of misery, right? If you want to experience peace, love, joy, fulfillment, and abundance, then you have to start living the life your best beliefs say you should live. James Tellerico said, "Don't tell me what you believe, show me how you treat people, and I'll tell you what you believe." And again, I say, don't tell me what you believe, tell me how you live your life, and I'll tell you what you believe. Again, I'm not trying to be divisive with this. Those who have a gap in what they believe and what they do aren't doing this intentionally. They just can't see the gap yet. And that's okay. Eventually, they will see the gap, and when they see it, they will adjust. I just want to call out the gap so people can begin to move in the direction of closing that gap in their life. What you say you believe is trivial, but what your life says you believe is everything. Stop believing in what you say you believe. Pay close attention to your life. Let it tell you what you believe. Let it tell you what you value. Let it tell you what's most important to you. And if you don't like it, take a risk and make a change other than changing your beliefs. All right, thanks for your attention. If you enjoyed this video, check out the rest in this video series. The links are in the description. And like, comment, share, follow, or subscribe. Otherwise, take care, friend.